Life is long if you know how to use it, Seneca warned, yet most men spend their best years feeding hidden weaknesses instead of forging hidden strengths. Let's expose the 7 habits that rot you from the inside out. Watch until the final chapter, then comment which weakness you will strike first, hit like to mark your resolve, and subscribe so next week's Stoic upgrade lands right on time. Chapter 1. Chasing Girls. You wake up and reach for your phone before your spine has even aligned. The first reflex isn't gratitude, purpose, or planning. It's a dopamine pulse disguised as curiosity. Did she watch my story? Did she respond to the reel I sent? Did she like the comment I left at 2 a.m.? You tailor every post to create a breadcrumb trail for her attention, filtering every caption through what might keep her orbiting one more day. You memorize her Spotify playlists so you can name-drop niche bands, re-watch her old stories to better emulate her humor, shift your meals, workouts, even your sleep schedule around the ghost of a maybe. And you call this pursuit, but it's not. It's unpaid labor. And worse, it's labor directed toward someone who hasn't asked for the product. Each double text, every time you stare at your phone waiting for a read receipt, costs you the very currency that Stoicism elevates as sacred: your attention, your energy, your will. These aren't endless resources. Every ounce you waste trying to predict her response is an ounce you could have spent lifting a barbell, writing a pitch, building a business, or deepening a skill that can serve you for decades. Your ancestors didn't survive plagues, spears, and winters just so you could chase someone who's too bored to say no. They stalked elk with a bow and discipline. Clear objective, swift execution, fire built before dusk. You're chasing glimpses. You're hunting ghosts. You're collecting scraps of her attention and trading away pounds of your power. And then you wonder why your confidence erodes. You wonder why you feel like a man halfway built. It's because you are. The Stoics teach that energy, rightly focused, compounds into clarity and purpose. But when that same energy is thrown into the abyss of indifference, it bankrupts slowly and invisibly, until you wake up one day and realize your identity is stitched from reactions, not decisions. You're not a lover. You're not even a player. You're a background character in your own life. Flip the ledger. Track where your mind actually goes between sunrise and sleep. Audit the mental bandwidth you allocate to daydreaming about what she might say if you finally said the right thing. Now imagine redirecting just half of that attention into something useful: language drills, strength training, business books, cold exposure, anything that builds resilience, skill, and value. You don't need to exile romance. You need to stop assigning it the throne. Invest your mornings into yourself. Start your day building competence, lift heavy, train your craft, study hard. Treat your life like a mission brief. Use your evenings to create, to build, to network with high-value people, not chase breadcrumbs of validation in DMs. Learn to sit in solitude without scrolling her feed. Teach your nervous system that peace isn't found in her reply, it's found in your decision not to need one. Ironically, this is when everything changes. When you stop chasing, you become gravitational. Because motion glows. Progress emits a pulse. Chasing broadcasts insufficiency: I need something to feel okay. Choosing, building, growing? That's surplus. And surplus attracts. A man who's building doesn't ask for attention, it arrives. Not because he sent the perfect message, but because people are drawn to momentum the way ships are drawn to lighthouse beams. She's not ignoring you because you're invisible, she's ignoring you because your light isn't bright enough yet. She doesn't owe you attention. You owe yourself direction. That changes when you stop begging for engagement and start earning self-respect. Chasing proves you don't believe you're the prize. The man who understands his value waits, not passively, but actively. He builds. He improves. He multiplies. And when someone worthy steps into view, he doesn't throw his soul at them, he invites them to match his pace. So stop texting her a fourth time. Put the phone down. Pick up the weight, the book, the journal, the tool. Build something today that moves your life forward. Because while you're chasing her through a maze of mind games, the man you could be is lapping you in silence. Stoicism isn't about denying emotion, it's about disciplining it. You can feel attraction without falling into servitude. You can want connection without losing posture. You were not built to orbit someone else's approval. You were built to stand still long enough for the world to revolve around a man who knows where he's going. So stop running. Stand. Build. Let orbit do what chasing never could. Chapter 2. No purpose. The alarm rings, and your hand slaps the snooze button without thought. Not because you're lazy, but because nothing truly pulls you forward. You rise, but you don't ascend. You stumble through a morning routine dulled by repetition and drag yourself into work that pays, but doesn't stir. The hours bleed into one another: coffee, meetings, traffic, screen. Evenings blur into streaming loops, temporary stimulation masquerading as rest. Weekends disappear in errands and minor obligations that feel both necessary and meaningless. Life becomes a treadmill of tolerable, never memorable. You survive, but don't direct. Without purpose, each day is motion without meaning. The Stoics called purpose a disciplinarian. It is not a daydream or Instagram quote, it is the internal whip that drives laziness out of the body and carves conviction where hesitation once stood. Purpose lashes weakness but also warms courage. Without it, the mind becomes a breeding ground for parasites, envy, overthinking, resentment, nihilistic humor that masks quiet boredom. You find yourself mocking others who strive, not because they're wrong, but because their direction forces you to reckon with your drift. Addictions creep in to fill the vacuum: alcohol, porn, sugar, distraction. When you lack something to move toward, anything that dulls the awareness of stasis feels like relief. But it's not relief. It's decay. Purpose gives shape to suffering. A man without it fears discomfort, a man with it expects it. The difference is navigation. With purpose, pain becomes mileage. Without it, pain becomes weight. And the only way to start building that navigational framework is to make a vow, not a wish. Write a mission statement so blunt it makes you flinch. I will be a physician who reduces rural mortality. I will be a carpenter who revives abandoned homes and teaches young men to work with their hands. I will be a father present at every bedtime, no matter what the job demands. Let this be your North Star. Then, reverse engineer the steps like a tactician. Entrance exams, savings goals, skill acquisition, mentorship, turn each piece into a milestone that fits on calendar squares. Don't just write it down, live like it's non-negotiable. Purpose isn't a mystical lightning bolt. It's a decision you make sober and repeat daily. It's an address you name and then start walking toward, even if the map is torn and the weather's bad. Each step forward clarifies the next. The path doesn't light up all at once, but purpose makes uncertainty tolerable. The Stoic doesn't ask for a perfect plan. He asks only that the man keeps walking. You can be slow. You can be wounded. But you must be moving. Direction trumps motivation. Intensity fades. Purpose remains. Especially when storms arrive: layoff, divorce, illness, betrayal. When the fire dies out and the mirror offers no warmth, the man with a compass keeps crawling north. You will lose people. Friends who prefer drifting will mock your change. They'll scoff at early mornings and dry weekends, Call your ambition arrogance or midlife panic. Let them drift. You'll gain others. People with war stories and scars who see the same mountain in your eyes. They'll share resources, wisdom, brutal feedback, and more importantly, energy. Brotherhood built through aligned mission is a fire pit that never cools. You also begin noticing that your self-esteem no longer hinges on compliments or achievements, but on congruence. You say something, and you do it. You set a standard, and you meet it. This repetition rewires your nervous system. You walk taller, not because people cheer, but because you've earned your own approval. That approval is the currency that buys momentum. A man without purpose wakes each day unsure if he's behind or ahead. A man with purpose wakes each day knowing exactly where he's headed, even if today's task is small. He learns to delight in systems, training sessions, learning modules, tracked expenses, because they are bricks in the house he's building. And the beauty of it all is this: the process itself becomes the reward. Purpose stretches goals into decades but gives you immediate fuel. Discipline, resilience, clarity, these qualities grow under its gravity. So if you feel lost, don't wait for epiphany. Make a vow. Pick a direction. Not perfect, just true. Refine it as you move. A man standing still waits for meaning. A man in motion discovers it. Kring Norse. And if you need proof that it matters, look 5 years ahead. Do you want to be telling the same stories? Do you want to be figuring it out forever? Or do you want a warpath with flags planted along the way, built from sweat and scars and purpose? Your answer decides whether you remain one of the many men slowly erased by comfort or one of the few men who shape the world with direction. Be the latter. Start today. Walk. Even if it's crawling. Even if it's dark. Your North waits. Chapter 3: Lack of Discipline and Action. Your bookshelf groans under titles promising life hacks. Your phone brims with motivational playlists that spike dopamine for 3-minute bursts, yet sunrise still finds you buried under blankets, thumb flicking for novelty because discipline never showed up to drag you vertical. Dreams live captive inside neatly bullet-pointed notebooks, scratching at the paper-like walls behind glass, because nothing in your daily pattern sets them free. You've mistaken inspiration for execution. They are cousins, not clones. The Stoics' new discipline isn't raw force, it's architecture, pillars, beams, and mortar holding action even when mood vacates the job site. Begin by laying bricks so uniform they look boring: identical wake time, identical workout slot, identical deep work block. Treat them like non-negotiable appointments with your future self. Pair every habit to an unmissable cue: brush teeth, jot 3 priorities, pour coffee, outline writing session, unlock laptop, start Pomodoro timer with headphones already programmed to focus tracks. Record representatives on paper or an app with irreversible streak counters. The brain respects ink more than intention. Boredom will ambush you or welcome it. Its proof repetition is settling into muscle. Stoic legionaries drilled shield formations until bodies snapped into rank before thoughts could protest. You drill spreadsheet shortcuts, guitar scales, outbound calls until fingers move even when spirit whines. Celebrate streaks but guard them like currency. Traveling? Scout the hotel gym before booking. Red-eye flight? Pack resistance bands in carry-on. Fever? Downgrade workout to mobility stretches but refuse 0. The point isn't volume, it's continuity. Consistency metabolizes identity. Each completed microtask rebrands you from guy who wants to man who does. Soon discipline stops feeling like shackles and starts feeling like scaffolding, rigid enough to climb, flexible enough to sway during storms. Expect friction from friends who live by mood. They'll tease your bedtime alarms, your meal prep, your refusal to indulge weekday drinks. Smile and keep chopping your wood. When their energy dips, they'll borrow your structure. Can you help me plan a study schedule? Success migrates toward reliability. People gamble on steady hands because steady hands lower risk. Promotions land on desks of employees who deliver before deadline, not those who deliver grand explanations after. Partners lean toward lovers who show up on time, not those who arrive with poems but empty calendars. Guard against discipline's dark twin, rigidity. Stoic flexibility means adapting without abandoning. If injury blocks squats, pivot to isometrics. If Wi-Fi dies, draft offline. If a child wakes early, swap meditation for reading together. The framework bends, never breaks. Each adaptive choice reinforces core belief. I finish what I start, regardless of weather. Inside 6 months, notebooks empty onto canvases, manuscripts drafted, languages logged in conversation minutes, bank accounts reflecting invoices sent on schedule. You wake before alarms, scroll less because momentum tastes sweeter than means. Confidence no longer rides shotgun, it drives, because it trusts the pilot. When discipline becomes identity, freedom follows, not the lazy freedom of couch sprawl, but the earned freedom of a craftsman whose tools obey. You can say yes to spontaneous road trips because workouts travel with you. You can accept challenging projects because deep work muscles are conditioned. You can promise and actually mean it. And when failure strikes, and it will, you don't spiral. A missed rep is data, not doom. You analyze, patch the schedule, and move. The architecture stands. Stoic marble chipped by rain still holds temples upright 2 millennia later. Build your habits with that intent, tasks mortared so tight that even on the day motivation deserts you, routine locks the gate behind it and the work gets done. In that fortress, ambition stops being a hope and becomes a household appliance. Flick switch, work hums. Opportunities hear the sound and come knocking, in investors seeking punctual reports, in partners craving steadfastness, in children learning reliability by osmosis. Forced repetition has mutated into self-trust, and self-trust is the quietest, most persuasive form of power a man can wield. Chapter 4. Alcohol and Partying. You call it blowing off steam, stress release, networking. But if the receipts had voices, they'd call it slow self-sabotage. The shots don't stay in the bar, they fragment your sleep, hijack your hormones, spike your blood pressure, and fog your memory the next day. The buzz fades fast, but the physiological wreckage lingers. REM sleep, slashed. Testosterone, tanked. Liver enzymes, elevated. Brain chemistry, unbalanced. And your wallet? A trail of vanished cash you can't remember spending, poured into drinks you didn't need with people you may not respect. Alcohol becomes the currency for temporary belonging that costs long-term clarity. The Stoics never needed club lights or bottle service to feel joy. Their version of happiness was memory-proof, not memory-blurred. Laughter that echoed in the morning. Conversations that didn't require apologizing for the night before. Dawn not avoided with sunglasses and Advil, but welcomed as a symbol of life continuing with purpose. True joy, they taught, has integrity that holds up in daylight. But what alcohol culture sells is escapism wrapped in glitter, momentary thrill, followed by anxiety, shame, or consequences you didn't plan but now must repair. This isn't a sermon for total abstinence. It's a call for agency. The issue isn't the drink, it's who's holding the wheel when you pour it. If you can't stop at one, if you lose track of your budget, your voice, or your dignity, then alcohol isn't a social tool, it's a leash. Stoic power means choosing when and how to engage, not defaulting to habits that others confuse for connection. Choose your occasions with ruthless precision, limit pause to celebrations marked by earned milestones, births, promotions, completed challenges. Not Thursdays. Not we made it to Friday. Not because you're bored or lonely. Control the tempo. Alternate every drink with water, not because you're afraid to let loose, but because clarity is a flex in a room addicted to blur. Set a hard exit time and stick to it. When the second round glows, you've already paid your tab, tipped well, and moved on. You exit like a professional, not because the night's dull, but because you have a dawn worth meeting. Track your spending. When alcohol becomes a ritual, expenses vanish into the haze. Keep a tally. Visibility kills illusion. You'll quickly see hundreds, maybe thousands, evaporate each quarter into forgettable nights. Redirect those funds into equities, certifications, gym upgrades, flights to cities that greet you with fresh opportunity instead of hangover fog. Trade bottle service for summit hikes. Replace club basslines with the rhythm of your own feet on a trail at sunrise. While others sleep off tequila, you'll be building something: momentum, clarity, health. What happens next is subtle, but profound. Your skin clears. Your sleep deepens. That morning jitter, masked for years by caffeine, fades. Anxiety loosens its grip. Productivity surges. You're no longer racing the clock each Monday, trying to reset from weekend damage. Your week starts clean, not with an apology to your goals. Your confidence grows, not from inflated bar stories, but from private, sober wins stacked with consistency. That shift doesn't go unnoticed. Women read it in your energy. Friends feel it in your boundaries. Employers sense it in your readiness. While they wonder how you always have bandwidth, the answer is simple: you stopped leaking it every Friday night. People may tease. Let them. But when they need help, an early airport ride, a hand on moving day, an interest-free loan, they don't call the guy who's still blurry from the weekend. They call the one who chose discipline. The one who chose clarity over chaos. And if they don't yet, they will. Because the man who walks away from the herd to build his strength alone becomes the man the herd turns to when things fall apart. You'll discover something else too: how alive life feels when you face it fully. How crisp air tastes at 5 a.m. How unshakable your words become when they weren't slurred 6 hours ago. How your goals start accelerating because you're not constantly resetting your habits. Alcohol takes without asking. Clarity builds without noise. The contrast becomes so sharp that eventually you no longer feel like you're giving anything up, you're guarding what's yours. Your focus, your body, your wealth, your word. So step out of the fog. Retire the excuses. You don't have to become a monk. But you do have to become the kind of man who doesn't need to blur. The man who chooses consciousness over chaos, legacy over likes, depth over days. Because clarity is rare. And rare always stands out. Be that rarity. Be the man who shows up sharp. And watch how fast the world shifts when you stop pouring yourself into the drain. Chapter 5: Instant Gratification. A phone buzzes, a cookie glistens, a streaming banner autoplays. Modern life seduces you at click speed. Comfort is now a subscription service, and every marketer knows the neurochemistry of your thumb better than you do. The moment you surrender to the ding or swipe, a tiny transaction rewires the brain for impatience. You think you're making a harmless choice, but each impulsive yes trims more neural fibers connecting present discipline to future vision. Over weeks, the mental highway that once carried ambition straight to execution cracks apart, and detours of procrastination multiply like weeds through asphalt. The Stoics anticipated this decay 2 millennia ago. They practiced deliberate friction to keep willpower sharp, cold baths before dawn, simple diets that snubbed indulgence, marches that knotted muscle and sold grit. They used hardship as a whetstone. Your landscape is different. Yet the principle remains: if everything is easy, you become fragile. If you dose your life with hardness, you become resilient. Start with minuscule interruptions to the dopamine drip. Delay morning coffee by a single hour. Feel the itch without scratching. Sit beside the mug inhaling aroma while scanning a page of meditations. You're telling your nervous system, I own you, not the other way around. Park far from work or the store and walk briskly, letting autumn air sting your lungs. That extra 5 minutes of footfall chips at impatience's foundation. Finish writing the email or coding the function before you allow yourself a scroll break. Each time you do, you stitch discipline deeper into muscle memory. The rule is simple: craving is a signal to practice command, not surrender. Next, introduce structural friction. Uninstall social apps from your phone so logging in requires desktop effort. Cancel push notifications except for mission-critical channels. Buy sweets in inconvenient form, dark chocolate bars wrapped twice in duct tape, so desire must negotiate with scissors before sugar touches tongue. Keep a pull-up bar in the doorway, 10 representatives before any snack, no exceptions. Make a pact with yourself, 1 chapter of a book before any video game session. These micro-tolls slow down the reward loop, allowing pause long enough for prefrontal reasoning, the adult in the control tower, to override limbic autopilot. As your tolerance for delay lengthens, something astonishing happens: the dopamine baseline resets. The buzz you once needed from triple mocha syrup now arises from the crunch of push-ups or the click of a completed task. Small wins satisfy, larger wins enthrall. The money you once leaked into impulse buys begins to accumulate. Seeing the balance grow on an investment dashboard triggers the same pleasure surge once reserved for shopping carts. Body composition edges toward leaner because snacks now cost effort. Every bite has a push-up tax, and laziness rarely pays it. Relationships mature because you listen instead of react, pause before interrupting, draft thoughtful replies instead of firing off emotional shrapnel. People feel safer around someone who can delay ego gratification long enough to process nuance. Momentum compounds. Money saved snowballs into opportunity capital, a course that upskills you, a down payment that frees you from rent slavery, a plane ticket to a conference where mentors gather. Physical resilience earned through micro-workouts fuels longer ventures, weekend hikes, half marathons, martial arts classes, each adding fresh layers of identity that no dessert or notification can match. Even recreation evolves. Patience enables chess over clickers, woodworking over idle surfing, slow-cooked meals over drive-through numbness. Your hobbies start feeding competence back into your professional life. Steady hands learned from planing oak translate to steadier lines of code. Recipe timing refines project planning. And as you build bridges from intention to reward, actual spans of sweat, saving, skill acquisition, peers notice. They still chase sugar rushes, viral headlines, date trade spikes, situationships fueled by the novelty of first dates but collapsing under the boredom of maintenance. While they grip constant gratification like a child clutches candy, you accumulate equity in fitness, in finance, in friendships locked by shared adversity. Equity carries weight. It grants leverage in negotiations, calming crises, gravity in rooms where quick-fix addicts float. The world will continue hawking shortcuts, 30-day abs, overnight crypto millions, 5-hour MBA. But you're busy constructing spans durable enough to bear the load of real ambition. Each delayed impulse is a bolt. Each consciously chosen discomfort, cold shower, handwritten thank you note, one more said deadlift, is a rivet. Over time the structure towers. From its deck you watch the frenzy below, grateful you swapped the thrill of the zipline for the power of a bridge that carries not just you, but everyone you choose to lead. Chapter 6: Poor Financial Stewardship. Payday hits, dopamine surges, and within hours it's gone, dissipated into gadgets you didn't need, gear that duplicates what you already own. and Uber Eats bags piled like receipts for short-term convenience. You chase the high of new without anchoring in the weight of what you already owe. Credit card balances creep like rising floodwater, slow and silent, until one day the floodplain is your bank account. The packages keep arriving, each box masking anxiety with anticipation, but that buzz is a rental, and when the bill lands, the emotional interest rate hits harder than the financial one. You pretend not to notice the accumulating debt because it hasn't changed your daily behavior yet. But behind the scenes, it's bending everything: which jobs you feel you have to take, which relationships you stay in for stability, which risks you won't allow yourself to consider. Debt is invisible shackles. Its weight doesn't just show up in overdraft notices or late fees, it distorts your identity. Seneca warned that slavery more often enters through financial entanglements than physical chains. When you owe, your decisions are filtered through the lens of limitation, not vision. You might not steal to repay it, but you compromise in quieter ways, settling for employers who treat you like replaceable parts, nodding at injustice to keep a check coming, ignoring your values because your rent doesn't care how principled you are. The fix begins with full exposure. Perform a brutal audit: total liabilities, interest rates, subscriptions, habits, emotional triggers. Treat each dollar as a soldier that needs marching orders. That's the logic of a zero-based budget. Every cent is enlisted in your cause, not wandering without leadership. Create buckets for essentials: emergency fund, debt reduction, investing, and joy. Yes, joy. Then automate. Remove willpower from the equation. Let your future wealth be the byproduct of systems, not mood. Just as the Stoics trained discipline into their bodies through daily routines, train your bank account into submission through automated consistency. Start small but immovable. Automate a $50 monthly investment into index funds: simple, boring, but relentless. Direct your first 5% of every check into a freedom fund, then expand that until you're saving 15 to 20% of net income. This isn't about hoarding, it's about building fire exits. When an opportunity arises, start a business, leave a toxic job, fly across the world to help family. You need capital. Capital is leverage. And leverage, when directed by character, becomes force. Then install a waiting room between desire and decision. Adopt the 48-hour rule for any non-essential purchase. Want a new jacket, headphones, or piece of tech? Add it to a list and revisit after 2 sunrises. Almost all cravings die in that quiet. And those that persist get seen through clearer eyes, purchase not as an aesthetic, but as investment. Redirect your compulsions toward assets. Index funds over sneakers. Courses over collectibles. Tools that earn instead of objects that distract. The goal isn't monkish abstinence, it's deliberate allocation. You still buy things, but they extend your capacity instead of shrinking your future. Over time, you build a life that doesn't need constant relief because its structure doesn't generate constant stress. Within 1 year, you begin to notice. The credit balance drops. The FICO score climbs. Anxiety retreats. Conversations shift. You say no to shady gigs because you don't need them. You leave toxic relationships because dependence has been replaced by autonomy. You refuse to entertain unethical requests from clients or co-workers because fear has been replaced by choice. Financial freedom isn't a Lamborghini in your driveway, it's the ability to pivot without pleading. It's the clarity that comes from knowing your time isn't leased to survive another billing cycle. The world starts treating you differently when you start treating your money like a message. Discipline in spending reflects seriousness in purpose. You'll be surprised how quickly others recognize the difference. Employers don't just look at resumes, they look at patterns. Partners don't just listen to ambition, they watch for evidence. Financial stewardship is the invisible scaffolding of real power. You become the man who isn't easily rattled. The man who can help others without destabilizing himself. The man who's dangerous because he doesn't depend. So begin now. Look at your balance. Delete the convenience apps you use when you're bored or anxious. Log every purchase for 30 days. Make saving automatic. And most of all, learn to sit in desire without obeying it. The Stoics didn't ask you to be rich, they asked you to be unmoved. That's the wealth no market can crash. That's the stability no crisis can steal. That's what turns mere money into lasting mastery. Chapter 7: Isolation and Lack of Brotherhood. Screens engulf you in swirling timelines of faces, memes, and hot takes, an illusion of constant company. But when the job evaporates or a parent's biopsy comes back malignant, pixels dissolve and four walls echo your own pulse. Without a living circle of men calling you higher, blind spots widen into sinkholes. Challenges meant for shared lifting become private burdens, cash flow hemorrhage no client sees, marriage arguments you mute behind half smiles, creeping depression dulled by midnight scrolling. Stoic schools thrived on embodied dialogue. Marcus Aurelius poured doubts into letters de fronto. Seneca mentored Lucilius through moral storms. They knew philosophy matures in conversation, not monologue. Modern life still offers arenas where comradeship hardens. Build your senate deliberately. Step into a martial arts gym where taps replace bravado, the mat equalizes status, and iron respect grows in 60-second rounds of controlled chaos. Join a mastermind where revenue goals and reading lists are dissected without mercy. Volunteer on flood relief teams, shoveling ruined drywall beside strangers weeds out performative empathy. Always offer value first, share a tech shortcut, arrive early to sweep the dojo floor, ask another man about his goals before broadcasting your own. Service is the handshake that invites real talk. Vulnerability follows usefulness because no one mistrusts someone who already lightened their load. Institutionalize that brotherhood. Schedule standing check-ins, the 6 a.m. Saturday call where each man reports on the week's discipline score. Plan annual crucibles that test endurance, winter hikes, silent retreats, cold water plunges, 10-mile rows at sunrise. Adversity forges trust faster than bar chatter, sweat erases small talk and leaves only character. Inside that crucible jokes become sharper, praise more meaningful. A brother sees belly fat creeping over your belt and emails a meal plan. Another clocks your flirty DMs to an uninterested ex and roasts you into course correction. When discipline slips, they drag you into the squat rack. When debt threatens, they wire a loan before payday vultures circle. Brotherhood acts as an immune system against weakness, a biological defense built from shared standards and merciless honesty. Reciprocity completes the loop. You spot his bench press, critique his pitch deck, watch his toddler so he and his wife can recalibrate. You ask tough questions about his alcohol intake, text him articles on therapy when grief sours his voice, introduce him to the recruiter who placed you last year. Every act reinforces your self-image as a man worth relying on. In solitude, weaknesses germinate like mold behind drywall. In tribe, exposure to fresh air dries them to dust. Real camaraderie also expands ambition's horizon. One man finishes a triathlon and the group's definition of normal shifts upward. Another negotiates remote work abroad and suddenly geographic limits look negotiable for everyone. Progress becomes contagious, a relay where each victory hands the baton of possibility to the next runner. The collective memory stores templates, how to file for an LLC, treat a panic attack, propose marriage with intention. Instead of Googling life, you download wisdom directly from men who bled in the scenario you're about to face. Technology can amplify brotherhood if you wield it, not worship it. A private group chat tracks weekly macros, representatives, book pages. Monthly Zoom forums dissect tax strategies. Shared calendars remind you of his product launch so you can evangelize on day one. But face-to-face remains irreplaceable. Digital touchpoints are sparks, not campfires. Guard at least one meal or workout each week where phones stay pocketed and dialogue stretches without emoji crutches. The Stoics understood polymath resilience springs from community. A legion marches because shields overlap, a philosopher reigns in chaos because minds overlap. Choose to overlap. Draft your cohort with intentionality and ruthlessness, men pursuing virtue, not mere vibes. When storms barrel in, you'll find your house already sandbagged by their counsel. And when calm returns, you'll celebrate around fires started from the wreckage you carried out together. Brotherhood is not optional seasoning, it is the stock of the stew. Stir it daily, and solitude becomes chosen reflection, not oppressive silence. Weaknesses starve when watched by many eyes, strengths feast when fed by many hands. Epictetus wrote, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish while you strike at your faults. You've just counted 7 faults powerful enough to sink any man who ignores them. Pick one, just one, and accept the temporary awkwardness of change. Post your target weakness in the comments so this community can keep you honest. Tap like if the mirror stung productively, and subscribe so next week's Stoic upgrade lands straight in your feed. Every vice you uproot frees the ground for strength to grow. Start digging tonight, and meet me back here a richer man, lighter in excuses, heavier in purpose.